So this is a book reading session from Pujya KCV's Volume 1, Discourses on the Philosophy of Sri Ramchandra's Raj Yoga. Lecture 11. You're able to hear Vidyadhar clearly because I'm looking at my cell phone and reading actually.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, good. Master tries to explain the nature of realization. Realization is something very different from liberation. Liberation or salvation is getting out of the bonds of rebirth. Once you get rid of the bonds of rebirth, you are said to be liberated from the bonds. That is what we call moksha. But that is not the goal. Though human miseries and struggle make us think it is important to get rid of the pain and getting a kind of tranquility from the operation of the bondages. But realization is something much further. It is discovering your own oneness with God. The fact that you are liberated from the bonds does not de facto mean that you are realized. There are probably many liberated people, hardly any who has realized that is found his oneness with God, the ultimate being. So we could think of a large number of liberated souls, but not people who have realized God. They may be in the process of realization in the sense that after having found freedom from bonds, they discovered that there is more and more to be attained than previously. So you will see that liberation is not realization. Secondly, what is realization? Realization has been defined by many people as the attainment of a state of God with all his powers of creation, sustentation, and destruction, and so on and so forth. Actually, these cosmic processes are only with God, but not with anybody else. So even the highest of the souls in the realized condition will not be given these powers. It is the exclusive prerogative of the divine being alone. That is the distinction between God and the souls will remain. But an individual soul which is going towards realization will attain a condition which is far beyond all that we have heard from our spiritual savants. God is said to be Sat Chit Ananda. Now this condition goes beyond Ananda. You may ask the question, what does it really mean? We cannot express it. It means Master states that it is a condition of salt without saltiness. Salt may not be a good word as the sweet, but there is a positive fact which he enunciates of this condition. This condition is the condition of omnipotent will. A person who has reached that state of realization can do whatever he wants. His will is invincible. Now that condition is what we will have when we realize. I do not know whether that is not a very high state. In fact, he says that when a person ceases to be, then there is realization. Now, this is a negative description. An individual reaches a state of easiness, that is, he does exist, and then he becomes the condition of zero, absolute negation, where there is no change at all possible in his nature, even though he is swimming in infinity. Now that condition is said to be the state of realization. Now he compares this state with the Nirvikalpa Samadhi of the yogins. The Raja Yoga works actually use the word Samprajnata and Asamprajnata Samadhi. It does not use the word Nirvikalpa or Savikalpa Samadhi. This language comes from the Advaitins. This Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which has been preached by the Advaita saints or teachers, is a condition when we do not have a distinction between God and self. In fact, there is neither God nor self. There is neither object nor subject, nor even the knowledge in between, nor experience even. Now that is said to be a very high attainment in that system. Shall we pause here and then? Our system wants to develop the experience of God in a natural way, or Sahaja Samadhi, not getting to that condition when you are disengaged from your bodily consciousness or even the soul consciousness completely. On the contrary, this is where we do work in this world and go on doing all the works, living in that contact with the ultimate reality all the time. Now, Sahaja Samadhi means attachment with reality all the time, without interruption, even when we are doing any work. Not only when we are in dhyana, as in the case of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, or even Savikalpa Samadhi, or Samprajnata Samadhi, or Asamprajnata Samadhi. This Sahaja Avastha is sought to be established in every one of our abhyasas, so that he will be doing his duties detached from the fruits of duties, but attached all the time to the reality which pours itself down into him and supports him by its changeless condition. So this kind of establishment in that consciousness, which you may call a kind of establishment in that consciousness, which you may call a kind of sthita prajnata, is normal to us and is something to be attained by every one of us, which means that we do not try to get out of this world. We'll pause here. This is a very important point. Anybody wants to give his understanding or comment, or because as people who are following the system, there's a lot of talk about Sanatana Dharma in social media, and wherever we go, people will ask you, you're doing yoga, so what is it? They'll ask all these questions, and then since we are talking about this, you must have a clear idea in what way ours is different from yoga as well as Vedanta of Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa. Because this word Sahaja Samadhi is not mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutras at all. It is totally the central thing of Babaji's system, natural path. If there are no questions, then we'll move further. The world is not something to be shunned. What we would renounce of it is attachment to it. That is, we think that we cannot exist without the object, without the body, without food, or without the property given to us. Then we are caught up in it. In other words, let me tell how thoughts flash to my consciousness. I was asking myself how we built up all these securities about us. Everybody wants to have a house, and then he wants to have a bigger compound, and still bigger compound, and so on, and erecting compounds to prevent people from jumping into our houses and entering into them. Our own body may be considered to be a series of securities built up around us, around ourselves. Now, after having built up our securities, suppose we have been confined to the inner arena and never move out of it, and perhaps misplace our keys also, so that we cannot get out of that. Then we think we are prisoners within our own security. We know a fortress that is built by people to defend themselves from the enemy finally becomes a prison house when it is surrounded by others. Now, this is how we have built up our securities and attachments. So the very things we thought were necessary for our existence are now discovered to be obstructions to our freedom. In fact, we are prisoners in our own house, in our own bodies, by our own attachments.
Sir, you are asking for a clarity between Sanatana Dharma, Raja Yoga, and Yoga. Sir, can some clarity on that from you? Whatever little I have, maybe that will be refurbished. Can we have some clarity from you, sir?
Prajna is awareness.
Okay.
Samprajnata Samadhi is like, suppose now you are thinking about Dr. KCV, thinking about the master. You have a feeling of devotion or a feeling of reverence or a feeling of worshipful attitude will be present in the minds of many people who are listening to this. So when you're aware of that feeling of worship or aware of the feeling of reverence, and you're absorbed in that feeling, then that is a kind of a samadhi. But where you're conscious of the feeling of reverence, where you're conscious of the feeling of worship, that is a kind of a samprajnata samadhi. You are aware of the feeling of devotion. And your mind is identified with that feeling. That is called samprajnata samadhi. In asamprajnata samadhi, the awareness that you are having the feeling of devotion is also lost. You are not even aware of yourself. You are neither aware of the master nor the goal also. And the mind, which is the link between the subject and object, that also vanishes from your awareness. So that is called asamprajnata samadhi. There is no awareness at all. You simply, you're disappeared into thin air. You don't exist at the time. Your body will be there, mind will be there for the third observer, but you will not be existing. That is called asamprajnata samadhi. Whereas vikalpa, some vikalpa are similar concepts, but those languages used by the Advaita Vedantas. Kalpa is imagination, construction of our mind. So vikalpa, savikalpa, nirvikalpa is where imagination at all. Most of our thoughts are projections by the mind. Mind is a projecting machine, actually. It projects our thoughts, it projects our perceptions, it projects our assumptions. So that is where the mind becomes absolutely quiet, when it becomes chittavritti nirodha, then there is no production by the mind of any thoughts, feelings, or perceptions. Then you can think that state like a savikalpa and nirvikalpa samadhi, or they're almost similar to samprajnata and asamprajnata samadhi. But in our system, we do not talk about these things at all. Though we talk about layavastha in each stage of the knot, we talk about 4 conditions called samipyata, salokhyata, sarupyata, and saipyata. That means, as I just told you, when you have this feeling of reverence to the master, or feeling of worshipful nature, or feeling of devotion, or feeling of love for the master, that feeling goes through these 4 phases of refinement in the state of the mind. In the final refinement, you are not even aware that you are having the feeling. That is called sayujata. It merges, it becomes part of your nature. So we also talk about layavastha in this thing, but then we talk about sahaja samadhi, whereby Babaji was in that state, Dr. KCV, Dr. Kasturi and all that, when they were doing all their works in their day-to-day life, but their mind was settled in the consciousness of the master. So that is the kind which Babaji talks in Efficacy Project very clearly about it. So that is what our system stands for. That means you are working in the world. In asamprajnata samadhi, you are just sitting like a statue. You are not existing for the world. You are not existing for yourself also. But then when you come out of the condition, the influence of the condition will make you feel happy, and then think for the general welfare and all that. That's a different matter. But in our system, we talk about sahaja samadhi only. So that is the idea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now we'll go ahead. Now I shall give another example. Firstly, a man wants to have a security of wife, and in fact, it is mutual, let us say. Afterwards, they beget children, and a security of children, and then more children, more security. And then finally, what do you find? In fact, we have we have what we call family misery, not family happiness. Our intentions were good. Our achievements have been rather disappointing. The one way by which some people say we can get rid of this attachment is remove all walls, throw away the body, throw away the family, renounce them. This is the only way by which we can get liberated. But I believe if we only think why we constructed for a while and that it is not a kind of madness or foolishness, then we find that these securities are necessary, but without attachment. They must be flexible. We must have the power to control the securities, and we must be able to displace some securities with other types of securities. That is, all these organisms are built-in mechanisms. Then we need not get rid of the organism itself if we are flexible in human nature. I think we have freedom to adjust the securities. So this freedom is what we can really see when we use our reason. So renunciation, as it is told by monks or mendicants, is, I say, a disastrous process when it is done against a society within which we have to grow. There is nothing wrong about us in that we are attached to them as if they are our real securities and real bondages. There is neither bondage nor security in them, except that we find them obstructing our real freedom, or when we find them not helping our freedom. Everything is done for the sake of freedom and not for the sake of bondage. But we also know transitoriness can bind us, and little knowledge can do much more havoc. So we are prisoners on our own accord, and sometimes we like the prison, sometimes we hate the prison. Therefore, all bondages are due to ourselves and not due to God. Now, how to get rid of this kind of inflexible bondage or securities? The only way for us as individuals is to get at God, who gave us the capacity to defend ourselves, to find why we are what we are. So our connection with God becomes very important. If we connect ourselves with God, then we will find the rationale of our securities and bondages, in which case we are not attached to them, and we can use them as freely as possible without being bound by them. Freedom is a dynamic process of living in God, because God gives the sense of freedom. We construct everything out of freedom. We barricade ourselves within our fortresses out of freedom, and now we find that our old barricades are not useful. Things are changing. The world is changing. Our patterns of life are changing. So we have got to throw them away and build again, if necessary, new securities which permit our freedom rather than deny it. Now, if we understand from this point of view, we can know that God did not create this world just to bind us. God created the world to give us security, and we made it our prison. Now, I think only if we can look about why and what is the secret force with which God created the world for our freedom, then we will find that we are free in this world and not bound. No institution is perverse enough to bind us forever, but it can be a liberating instrument. Now, this is the dynamics of spiritual life. We have got to connect ourselves with the ultimate. And Master says it is more simple. But we think that just as it was difficult for us to create barriers around us, the realization of God must be as ingenious as these things. Now, it is true, we have built our gods in our own image. And it is a very funny thing when we study in mythology that we have created gods to our tastes and to our lives. But God is really simple. Now, the easiest thing we can do is to connect ourselves with God. Do not look to all these outer things that we have created. Now, through them, shall we realize God? Not through our barricades. What we have to get is God's mind within us, and it can be God. Religions have said the way to know God is torture. That is a terrible thing, as if He is our enemy. Our security is threatened by God. Therefore, we shall have God to our taste. Really, what Master says is the more simple thing is to get at God, because if you can look into yourself, He is the force that made you construct all these things, and so He is within you. Do we think the creative power of our being, namely our having a God with such ingenuity and such skill, is not a power that is free from the thraldom? The very fact that we can get out of this body when we want and when we do not like the pattern of our body is a proof of the freedom of the soul. Is that not the divine? Therefore, the divine force is within us. It is that which builds our body. It is that which draws in itself from that body, and it can create another body to its will with different type of securities. Now, this supreme consciousness is within us. Only what has happened is, so long as we are living within this body, so long as we are concentrated in the running of this body, in the supervision of the body, it has lost the capacity to dominate the body as an instrument of freedom. So it is a victim of bondage, victim to the bondage and to all its securities, social, religious, and so on. We'll take a pause here. It's a beautiful article. Now, if a man come to us and arouse that inner force within us, ignite it into action of its supreme possibilities of freedom to know the divine and also to get more and more power from the divine being, then a sense of freedom comes at once. Just as a man who is bound, if he gets a force, immediately expands and says, here are the possibilities to me. I can break up my bonds. So also, if we can get the divine force into our system, do we think our own body will remain the body that it is? It will be quickened with a new life, new force, new abilities, and new possibilities. Now, this is a very great step. Master says it is possible to get this connection most easily. All that is required is a direct contact with the heart from the divine personality. Now, since we do not have personalities who can provide us securities, more securities and more bondages, we are in difficulties. Our great learned savants are people who have developed the fine arts of creating more bonds and assuring us that those mantras and tantras and yantras will help us. Now, that is not the way. Here is something which transcends all these techniques of art. It is an opening of a direct connection which seems to have a little weakened itself, not altogether. That is why Master says the introduction of the divine force of thought into a consciousness is the simplest thing that can happen, and no kind of ritual or rite or any other technique of preparation are necessary. It may appear so to people who are brought up in the tradition of securities and a craftsmanship in them, but this is nothing. It is not something to be believed, but reality is beyond rites. It is a thing practically to be tested, in which case you find that all that we require in this is an opening of a line of connection with God, which is to be done by pranahuti. It is only the man who has reached the ultimate condition that can do this. He must be empowered by that supreme divine reality to connect every individual who offers himself to this consciousness. It is perhaps necessary to have a little discontent over one's lot in order to ask for it. It may happen even without your knowledge, but then there is this possibility at the present moment that the divine personality is with us today. As our ancestors said again and again in history, we get a great personality who takes to this job of connecting individual souls directly with himself, so that humanity can progress towards the higher evolution to spirituality. No doubt, so long as that personality is in this work, we do find that large number rise up to that level. A few people only pass through, but a large number remain bound. It has been so in history. At the present moment, Sri Ramchandraji says that the divine personality is now with us, and it is because he is with us that this process can be applied to every individual who offers himself to it. This pranahuti is a real one, and once it is established, the human individual grows to his real dimension of spirituality. He breaks the bonds and small securities which he has built up. Rather, they may not break, but he crosses them, because what has been built need not be destroyed unless it is useless for further security. It is just possible we do not want security at all. There was a time when everybody had to build fortresses around his own houses. Even now, some people do so when they're afraid of robbers. But then we know, robbers know how to break through and we are in difficulties. And so we build new fortresses. Nothing helps us. That is, we have the freedom of God within us and fearlessness. Why build up securities? We want a condition when we will not be threatened by anything, and therefore we do not want any security against God. If God rules, everything can be removed. If God does not rule, but man rules, we want all security. We want to establish the kingdom of God in a way, at least, so far as we are concerned. Don't think I'm thinking in terms of having a world looking after us individually. First, let us find out whether we are ruled by God or personal securities. I feel any person who has some taste of God's looking after us individually will appreciate that we are being protected once we are taken up by God. Now, every physical, economic, social element of institutions are there. The first thing that goes away from us is fear. Fear of our neighbor, fear of future, fear of the past. All these things, all these go away if individually we can get that experience. If a nation can undertake it as a whole, I don't know whether it can do it. I think we do not want any securities even at this step. When we get to that state or will force, that will again set at naught anything. That is the supreme promise of our particular system. So realization would be there when we have no fear, when we are detached from everything except the ultimate, when our continuous living in God, for God, by God, which is a reality, is established. Then we find that all the securities that we have built into our body, out of us or society, are more instruments for little things, but for all practical purposes necessary. I may also say, we will have yet to do our duty in this world. As Sri Krishna says, do your work without attachment to the fruits thereof. This is a great discovery which our master has made. And as an instrument of practical work, he has undertaken this pranahuti, which anybody, or rather everybody, can adopt and find for himself whether he realizes true renunciation and true attachment to God. The true renunciation is the renunciation of attachment to the things we have built up in the past, to which we are now clinging, either on principle of family or an institution or color or caste or so on and so forth. All these institutions are transitory. They are not permanent. What is permanent is our relation with God. And what is also dynamic is we can create and recreate, destroy and rebuild our work according to the will of God, which means then our creations will be true and may be helpful and beneficent to all. Today, we are not doing that way. We are attaching to our fruits, whether we call it personal or social, it does not matter. In either case, there is attachment. And again, we have got all kinds of squabbles. These have no right to arise. In the words of Sri Krishna, firstly, become of mine, take my mind, the divine mind in you. Machita Sarva Durgani. The divine mind will be able to cross over every fortress or every barricade that we have erected for ourselves and become a free mind, not a mind that thinks it is free while it is imprisoned in its own fortress. That's all about this. I think it's a very powerful and highly motivating and inspiring lecture of Revered KCV about Babaji's philosophy of realization and liberation, and how the divine mind, when it enters into you, you immediately sense fearlessness, and how a person who is established in that God consciousness can introduce that divine mind into you. It's a revolutionary thing which is happening. Anything anybody wants to share his understanding, anybody wants to share his feelings or worries about it, it's a straightforward thing. Only thing is you have to open your hearts and minds and then learn that whether you're imprisoned and whether you like your prison and whether you want freedom from the prison, that's a question each one has to pose for himself. And I know many people are in the prison only, but once they realize that they're in the prison, then the idea of getting freedom from the prison arises. The prison can be this notion of the body is permanent, a notion of you own the property, I and mine, and then notion that you are a male or a female. Gender is also a notion, which is a perception actually, and the notion of time is also a notion. Notion of being a country, belonging to a religion, belonging to a province, belonging to some sports teams. All these are all notions which imprison you. And if anything good happens, that your country is prospering, you feel happy. If something bad happens, you feel depressed. That is because of the attachments. So if it can be known, then only the spiritual path opens up, and then you can take the help of the trainer who goes into prayer and then tries to transmit the divine essence to you. He talks about how you're married and having children, you want securities and all that. I was recently in my spare time, this COVID time, I was reading Bhagavatam actually. There's a story called Puranjara and Puranjani. It's a very interesting story. There, Narada tells this story to somebody about this thing, and then he talks about a city. He compares it's very interesting, worth listening to YouTube, listen to somebody talking about this story of Puranjara. There he says in that city there are tigers and lions which do not attack and kill you, but they are there. He compares them with our brothers, sisters, friends and all that who keep you in bondage. Very interesting way it was conveyed about the nature of the mind and nature of imprisonment, which is unconscious also. You're not even aware that you're imprisoned actually. Anyway. Anything else, Joshi? If otherwise you have come to the end of this reading session.
No, I just remembered one thing. I think Rajesh Sena had come from US and he went to SAR. Then there was a talk about this layoffs are very frequent in IT industry, right? So there was a talk on this job security.
Okay.
And then Sir said there's nothing like a job security. There is only one security which we have in company of God.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, in fact, I was taking Sir to the eye treatment for ophthalmic checkup. I was telling Sir, this eye specialist, very close friend of mine and Keshav, is a very nice person, Sir. He's, for friendship's sake, he'll do anything. Then he said, Madhava, there's only one friend, and that is God inside your heart. He should be your only friend. That's what he said. He should not. He is your true friend. Other friends are all conditional. In certain conditions, they are friends, and certain conditions they will leave you. Even in our group, you see, so many of us, we were together as long as Sir was there. Now many persons have left us because it's all conditional. True friendship only come when there's a common goal, and then when the ego is gone, then your friendship and then your duties to a friend are not dependent on conditions. You don't your interactions are not based on what you get in return. You don't want praise, you don't want any compensation for your whatever transactions you do with friends. Everything will be in the form of duty, but then there'll be no disappointment if friends leave you or then they don't like you and all that. So the true friend is only God who is with us, and then that's how if we can contemplate on that idea deeper, and then we try to develop attachment, then real freedom comes. Otherwise, we feel sad and upset about the organization also, about the institution. The institution is also a bondage, like Ramchandra Mission or then ISRC is an institution. And as Dr. Kesari in one of the talks he gives, if a certain percentage of people in the organization are not maintaining a kind of purity, the organization is going to collapse, he says. So institutions have got inherent limitations of pollution or degradation creeping into it. That was a very strong argument given by Sir repeatedly, because when he resigned from SRCM in 79, 89 actually. I was the person who was repeatedly telling him, sir, we require your guidance and you have to train people and all that. He was very adamant. He says, you don't understand, institutions will have problem. Organization means there are a lot of problems. Politics will come in, discipline issue will be there. Spirituality can only spread individually. Suppose you come to me every day, you're coming. Suppose I can teach you whatever I know fully to one person, my life will be fulfilled. I don't want to start another organization. He kept on for hours together. I spent time with him and finally he relented, and then he started ISRC. Because his belief was very strong. He says institutions, inherently they become corrupt actually, because the spirituality, the God is so simple and it is so subtle. General majority of the people's mind cannot grasp it. They grasp the superficial thing, but the essence is ungraspable unless the trainer has got the power to lift up the mind of the Abhyasi to that level and make him grasp the subtle point actually. So I, at that time, because I was selfish, I wanted some help from him. I was pushed him to, myself and Krishna Prasad were the two people who were, badgered him to start an organization so that, other people will be guided on the path and all that. So attachment to an institution is also a loss of freedom actually. Truly speaking, if we read Dr. Kesari's argument. Because you can see so many mistakes happening and then you feel bad about, suppose you're not attached to an organization. People who have got craving, they'll find God on themselves, on their own. And then you can lead a carefree life. Anyway, Vidyadhar's point, Sir's saying is good, and then my experience with him saying that nobody is your true friend, only true friend is God inside you. That's the point he said. Okay then, we'll meet next Sunday then.